Hi, team. I think we have everybody, so we can get started once. So we would like to just go through Cisco ISE, okay? Cisco ISE and AAA AAA from basics actually. Okay, Cisco ISE we will cover in detail in the next session. We will start with AAA and then we will go to Cisco ISE in next stage. So in this session, in the first session, we will just go through what is AAA and the deployment methods that we have for AAA. Okay. So you all know what is AAA, right? Authentication, authorization, and accounting. So what is authentication used for? Vivian?
Yeah, authentication is used for logging in and authenticating if the user is actually authorized or programmed to access that specific application or network device.
Yeah. So authentication is just to identify, okay, that I am Santosh, or if you are logging in your VPN actually, okay. So you have some password that only is known to you, okay. So that is authentication, identifying yourself, okay. Authorization, on the other hand, is what you mentioned in the second part, like what a user can do actually. Now we will have a separate SOC team in near future. So in that case, we might not require the SOC team to have full access on the network devices. We might create a separate like authorization level for them actually, so that they can only see the configuration and whatever they require, right? We can give them access to run those commands. So that is authorization, the service that they want to run, right? They can run. That is what we call as authorization. And accounting is basically auditing. So most of our network stuff, we do a change and then nobody owns it. Like we will definitely will say that I have not done that change, or we will not identify, like will not be able to identify who has done the change. Okay. So whatever changes have been done in our network, it is being logged. Okay, it is being logged, and we can do an audit of all the changes that are done in our network through AAA. Okay, so that is what we call as authentication, authorization, and accounting. So this has to come in the same order because it is a AAA. We cannot start with accounting, authorization, and like authentication. Okay, so it has to happen in the same order. First, authentication has to happen. Okay, so first authentication has to happen. Then only authorization can happen, and then only accounting can happen. Okay, accounting cannot happen without authentication happening. Okay, if authorization is not happening, also or accounting will happen. Okay, but authentication is required. The first step is required actually. Okay, so in that case, we have to always think that this has to come in the same order. Once the user is authenticated, it will be what we say, it will be logged, and whatever he is doing, it will be logged actually. Okay, so this has to come in the same order. You understood about this? What I say, this AAA?
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubts? AAA? Please please don't mind on the PPT actually, because I got little less time to prepare the PPT. So if you see, this is just a template on a yearly thing. So that is why we are seeing how we did. Okay. But you understood what is AAA, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so as we said, authentication is basically we validating what like a user actually. Okay, well, to identify whether the user is correct, like who he says he is actually. So that can be done using username password. Okay. Then authorization, as we mentioned, what all actions can he do in the network? Okay. So he might be what all he is permitted to do in the network. Okay. So that is what we mean by authorization. And logging, as we said, we have all the actions are logged. So there is nobody can do a deniability actually that I have not done this or so all the actions done by the user, okay, who is authenticated and authorized by a AAA, right? It is logged for auditing purpose. The next one is the deployment methods of AAA. So traditionally, if we see, we have a local database that we use for uh, authentication, right? So we can create, say, n number of users in the local database, like local device itself, and we can use that. And second way of doing it is using like a remote server. Okay, that is where our Cisco ISE comes into play. Okay, using remote server itself, there are two ways of doing it. One is the radius server, and one is TACACS. Okay, so do you know what is the difference between radius server and TACACS? It is just a two different types of what we say AAA deployment that is there. Okay, one TACACS is mainly used for device administration. Okay, so suppose we want to add like we want to implement AAA in a network device. Okay, we will use TACACS. Okay, whereas suppose we want to use AAA in a network. Okay, so wherever in a network, right, in a wired network or wireless, wherever we want to use, we can use radius actually. Okay, so these are two different ways that we can implement AAA in a network. Okay, you understood these two methods. One is by local, second is using the server. Server itself, it can be a radius server or it can be a TACACS server. Okay, in our network, we are primarily using it as a TACACS server for device administration. We have radius also configured, but that is only for the telecom devices. We have two telecom devices that are using our ISE as a radius server. Okay, so this part is clear. Any doubt? Yeah. Next one is the Cisco AAA products. Okay, so we initially Cisco had two different products. One is Cisco ACS. Whoever has worked in earlier, like in days, right? We had Cisco ACS for device authentication, right? Uh, all the devices were added to Cisco ACS. Okay, and Cisco ISE was used primarily for radius. Okay, these were two different products. Then with Cisco ACS 5, they integrated both actually. So Cisco ACS 5 provided both radius and device administration, whereas ISE from ISE version 2, there was a separate module added for device administration in Cisco ISE version 2 actually 2.x. Okay. So now 3.x is there. So we have not upgraded to 3.x yet, but we have a 3.x version also available for Cisco ISE. Okay, that is mainly cloud based. We are not using much of the cloud environment for network devices. Actually, but from the Cisco AAA product perspective, we legacy device like legacy Cisco AAA product was Cisco ACS actually, access control server. All our devices were added initially to Cisco ACS actually, and from 2011 onwards, they integrated both Cisco what do you say TACACS as well as radius to both. Like ACS can also provide radius as well as Cisco ISE can provide radius. But Cisco ISE can provide lot of other details. Okay, so Cisco ISE can provide many features. Okay, if you see the radius server or like identity server that is there in market, we can say the majority of market share is for Cisco ISE. Okay, the second is Force Scout. The features that Cisco ISE can provide, Force Scout can also not provide actually. So all it has very advanced features, Cisco ISE actually for wired and wireless as well as for TACACS actually. So we will go through this in our next session. So we will do a lab actually today. Okay, we'll do a lab for AAA implementation. So we will have two routers actually, and this router will be a you can say it is as a telnet server, and we will configure the AAA here, and from here the user will log into this device. Okay. So this thing you might have already done it. You might be an expert in this, but we'll just go through this before we go to Cisco ISE. So it has two ports. Okay. Name it as okay. And we can assign an IP address on FA0/0 IP address. And on line VTY 0.4. Okay. We will configure password. Then we will come to R1. I think here we'll just configure it as, and then we will we have to configure interface IP address so that it is able to reach the device, right? So IP address 192.168.1.1, right? So we'll configure it as 1.2. Okay, so we will do 92.168. Okay, so now we are able to log in, but there is no user authentication. So here we'll go and create users actually. Okay, username. We can create a username admin, privilege 50. Okay. And then for enabling AAA, by default it is not enabled, so we have to enable AAA. So for that the command is AAA new module. Okay, now once we enable it, and then we just try. Once we enable it, it is automatically taking the local database. Okay. You got it? Okay. So now authentication is happening using AAA mode. Okay. With the local database. Now, if we want to configure AAA authentication, how we configure it our devices is login, and then we have two methods here. So either we can specify a method actually, just we can proceed, we can just mention TACACS, or we can just mention auth or something, some word we can give, and then we can give that particular word list actually, or we can just mention it as default, and just we can mention this local. So once we have mentioned it as local, it will do the same thing here also. Okay, same thing we will be able to. Now, when we are logging in, which is the mode that we are logging in now? It is in the user privilege mode, right? Okay, right? Currently, it is in the user privilege mode. Now we want to enable, like we want to come into the exec mode. So for that we have to use the exec command. Okay, AAA authorization and then exec. Okay, exec means it will directly take you to the privilege exec, like exec privilege mode is there, right? It will take us to that mode, privilege exec mode. Okay, you know, right? In a Cisco router, we will have first when we log in, it will come into a user exec mode, then it will come into privilege exec, then it will go to configuration mode, right? Global configuration mode. Same thing. If we directly want to go into exec mode, we have to come here and then we have to type default. Include any doubts till this? You have already configured this in multiple devices earlier, but any doubt is there till this part?
Okay. No.
None from my end.
Okay, so now we are able to we directly are able to go into the privilege exec mode. Okay. Now if we like, there are many other options that is there here actually. So if you want to give say play, we have, if you see here, right, we have option for setting up banner actually. Okay, so we can set up authentication banner. Okay, so welcome GS. When we are logging in, it will ask for the banner actually. It will show us banner and then only it will ask for the username password. Welcome to CPS. And then it will ask for the username password. Next we have like user prompt and password prompt. Okay, that also we can, if you want, we can configure actually. So suppose we want to as of now, when user is just prompted with username, and then when we give the username, prompting with password, right? So instead of that, if you want to give something custom, we can do that also. We can say user prompt, we can say. So now if we try to log in, it's asking for, it's showing the banner and then it is saying, please enter the username. So here if we add, we are able to log in. Okay. Then other one is fail message. So suppose we are giving, say, like when we are doing, suppose we are giving wrong username and password. Okay, so it will ask for 3 times, right? By default it is 3 times, and then it will close the connection. Okay, so it is saying as authentication failed, right? And then it is closing. So instead of that, you can give another message here. So you can say message. So now if we try to do that, it will ask for the password wrong, and it is showing an it is showing the message that we wanted to give when the password is wrong. Then by default it is 3 attempts that is there actually. So we can make that attempt as like as no as much number that we want. So we can make that attempt as, say, 2. Now what will happen is, if we are going and we are giving, say, Cisco user is not there. Okay. See, it is closing the connection after the second attempt. Okay, so maximum attempt that we can do is 2 attempts. So these are the options that we have in AAA configuration. Okay. Apart from that, we have to configure AAA accounting. Right. Start. So likewise, if now if we do a debug, console, debug AAA. Authentication. We are able to see it, right? We are able to log in. What is the, it is using the AAA method, okay, and it is using the default as of now. We have, because we have not configured any other method, okay. The privilege level is 15, okay. So till this configuration, any doubts that you have until this configuration, Alisa, Jose, Alex?
All clear.
No, sir.
Okay. So this is something that we all learn in like our CCNA actually. So if you want to go like apart from this, if there is like a privilege level also, right? So if you want like say if we create a, we can create a username Cisco privilege 15 means it has all the access. Okay, now we can create say privilege 4 actually. Okay, and then we can say password Cisco. Now if we try to, sorry, this we have to create here. One second. Username Cisco privilege 4. Now if we try to log in again, we will give Cisco. Give Cisco again. We are inside this, but we cannot type any command here. Okay, it is not allowed to type any command here. So if we want to type any command, then we have to define what all the users can do using privilege command, right? So we can just in exec mode what all commands in level 4 is allowed. We can say that configure terminal is allowed. Okay, so now if the user comes and does a configure terminal, he's able to do it. Okay, but suppose he wants to configure an IP address on FA0/1, he's still not able to do it. So again, we have to configure a command for like interface level command. Okay, like so we have to again give him access to the interface actually. So image configure, okay, under configure, level 4. Okay. What is the command that he has to enter? Okay, so now if he goes and if he types FA0/1, he's able to enter it. But if he wants to type interface FA0/0, he will type that also. Okay, so we have given him privilege for the interface now. Okay, but suppose he wants to do a shutdown. Okay, he wants to do a shutdown. He's not able to do the shutdown because we have not given him privilege in the interface level. Okay, in the interface level, we have not given him permission to do a shut or no shut. So if you want to do that, again, we have to go into that interface level. And then we have to, for the level 4 privilege, we have to give the command is no shut. You have to give what all commands he can type actually. So once he comes here now, okay, and then he can do a shut. He can do. So we can define all the commands that the user can run on the privilege level, but it is very cumbersome. Like it is administrative overhead, right? Because we each and every command, granular command has to be mentioned properly without any mistake in the privilege. Okay, not a single command apart from this will be allowed for that user or in that level, privilege level. Okay, so this part, till this part is clear, everything is clear.
Yes,
Clear, Santosh.
Okay, so we'll just go through one more slide and then we can have a next session for Cisco ISE actually. Okay, where we'll go through the interfaces and then we will go through the basics of Cisco ISE. Now we have gone through the basics of AAA and we have done a lab on local authentication. Okay, you can also do that lab in your lab environment. Next one is Radius actually. What is Radius and what is TACACS? So Radius is again an open standard for implementing AAA actually. As we mentioned, it is used for implementing AAA in our network, like in a wired network or wireless network, VPN network, right? If we want to implement AAA, that is authentication, authorization, and accounting, we use Radius. Okay. We can, if we have time, we can check it out later, like in the next session. Or if you have any doubts, also we can clear it in the next session. Actually, we'll go through a practical in the next session. So it is an open standard. Okay. There are other vendors also that provide Radius actually, and then we have the ports that are used for Radius is 1645 and 1646. And 1812 and 1813. So if you ask what is the difference between this, this is the legacy ports that were used. Nowadays, all the new Radius code is using the new port numbers, that is 1812 and 1813. So if we go for Radius server that is implemented for MFA, okay, Azure MFA, Windows is using a Azure MFA, right? So the port that Azure MFA is using, Azure MFA Radius server is using is 1812 and 1813. Okay. And in Radius server, only the password is getting encrypted. The username does not get encrypted. Only the password is getting encrypted. Okay. And there are two steps in the two connections we can say in Radius server. Okay. One is the connection for authentication and authorization, that is out of AAA, right? Authentication, first two things, authentication and authorization uses a one single connection, that is 1812. Okay, it will use the port 1812 for authentication and authorization, and whereas for accounting, for logging all the activities of the user, what all the user is doing in a network, what all network resources he has accessed. Okay, so those things are logged using 1813 port. Okay, so these two ports are required for Radius server. Whereas TACACS server, we use one single connection, that is you all know that it is TCP 49. We have configured extensively in our network. We have allowed port TCP port 49 from all the network devices to our TACACS server, right? So in TACACS, what happens? It encrypts the entire packet. Okay, TACACS was initially developed by like a U.S. Defense Department actually, but it was implemented in enterprise first by Cisco. Okay, so we have TACACS Plus that is there. An entire suite of TACACS is there for like as device administration in ISE. Okay, so now if we go to our Cisco ISE, we have to first of all go to device administration module. Then only we can do the TACACS part. This is okay, and it will encrypt the entire packet. That is, it will encrypt both the username and password, and then it is using a single connection. Basically, it does not have two different ports. It uses the same port for port number 49, TCP port number 49 for both all authentication, authorization, and accounting. Okay, so these are the like at the very top level. This is the main things about TACACS AAA. Okay, we will go in very much detail. We will go in what all step happens, each and every step that is happening, the request that is sent, and those things also in the next session, where we will go into little bit of like a dashboard, how to add the devices uh, to the TACACS, how to configure the access policies, how to configure levels actually in Cisco ISE for device administration. As we are not using radius much, we can just go through an overview, but as it is not implemented in our network, like we don't require it. If suppose we have 802.1x or we have wireless WLC and AP, we use our Cisco ISE for implementing radius, but in our network we are not using it. But at overview we can just go through the steps of implementing radius through Cisco ISE in our next session. Okay. So this is the end of today's session. If you guys have any doubt, okay, we can just inform. We'll go one by one. First, we'll check with Vivian. Do you have any queries?
Not so far.
Okay, so everything like basic AAA is clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alex, which like suppose we want to configure a AAA in our like in a new device. Okay, what is the first command that we have to type in that device
Actually, the first command that we need to type to configure AAA on a device is AAA new model. Actually,
right.
we're enable to
Okay, good. Alyssa, you understood the difference between authentication and authorization, right? What is the difference between authentication and authorization? Can you just explain?
Yeah, the authentication is where it will authenticate the user's ID, and the authorization is the authorization of that user to in the privilege modes, and what is the levels that he can access, or um limitations.
Yeah, what all actions he can do once he logs
Yeah.
in, right? Correct. Sheila, any queries do you have, Sheila? Your mic is still not working. Okay, Jose, did you get this? And any queries that you have actually, because you this